The next question for the candidates is this one. Have you accepted any in lieu money or contributions from any unions, businesses, or organizations? Again, have you accepted any in lieu money or contributions from any unions, businesses, or organizations?
Alrighty. The only in lieu contribution I've received, so in lieu means non-cash contribution, was from my current employer, Charles Spinetta, donated wine to my campaign fundraiser dinner. And that is it. Thank you so much.
I'm running my campaign on a shoestring. I have not solicited for any donations. I tell people I just want you to vote for me. I'd like you to tell 10 people that you know to vote for me. The union, personally, I've been a union member for 11 years, and they pretty much decided that the auditor position was not important enough to endorse. Businesses or organizations? No. Like I said, I'm running it on a shoestring. I feel that that's the way that the auditor's office should portray itself, and you don't need to buy the office. You just have to prove that you can do a good job. Thank you. And you're supposed to give me the card.
Mike Spence.
Thank you. That's a great question. It's public record. You can look at our 460s down at the elections office. They show some interesting things. They reveal a few things about where our money comes from and the minority interests and special agendas that might motivate us in this election. I have none. I can say no to all of those questions. I did look at the other candidates as well, and I think it should be said that Supervisor Novelli, our incumbent, received $4,000. His largest contributor is the person who makes fireworks in our county. We can talk about fire safety, and I admire Supervisor Novelli for always being top on the list with fire safety. But when we go to July of this month, hopefully not many of you will be going down to buy fireworks to put off in the District 3 area in July. But they'll be accessible here locally because that gentleman is a large contributor. I didn't see a signed contribution for the Morgan campaign, and that may be an in lieu item as well. But I think those items are important to look at because when you do look at people's contributions, you will also notice our incumbent received all of his contributions from the Jackson and Plymouth area. $7,040, only $100 came from Upcountry District 3. So you can tell whether somebody is county-oriented or district-oriented or special interest-oriented.
It goes down here. Daniel. Can I go?
Bess Sogart donated 2 platters of cookies for events. And Paul Soban was pouring wine at an event, but we had very few people show up. And this Friday, Terra Rouge Winery is offering food and wine, and her box horn's going to be playing. So those would be my only in lieu. I'm such a fiscal conservative that you might notice there's nothing about me on the ballot except where you actually vote, because I had turned in my signature in lieu papers, I got over 511 signatures, but 87 were thrown out, and so I came up 26 short and had to cut a check to the county for $511.76. And then they said, if you want to get your thing on the ballot, it's another $400. And I went, what? I thought it didn't cost, really. So I didn't pay that, and that's why there's nothing there, just to make people know if you get a ballot. There you go.
Supervisor Nadeau.
Thank you, Sheriff. I'm not here to talk about other people's campaign donations. The question was to address... I'm here to address the question. Yes, I do have some in lieu's. One of them, I haven't even received it yet, but I'll just put it in the record because they've asked. The owners of St. George Hotel have offered to fund an event for me there as far as the food and as far as the rental space. And also I have a local webmaster that's been working his little heart out. I paid him. He's also donating some time towards my campaign. And so that would be the in lieu's that I have so far. As far as, I guess my name is on the ballot. I thought it was important to spend the dollars to have it there and have a description about what I'm about. So thank you.
Supervisor Novelli, you're up.
Thank you. I have some in lieu's and I have some contributions. First of all, in regards to fireworks, no fireworks are outside unincorporated areas at any time in the county. Thank you. In regards to in lieu's, I do have many in lieu's. I can't remember all of them. I know Mr. Manicero, Mr. Stan Lukowitz did a fundraiser for me. I know, I believe Sharon Lundgren's going to do one for me. So I have many. I can't remember them all, but if you want to look, we have a form down at the elections office. It's called the Form 460, and it's all filled out. And my treasurer, Denise Tober, also the planning commissioner and the chairperson of the planning commission is here tonight, so you can ask her. Thank you.
Lynn?
My only in lieu of contribution is out of my husband's bank account. Let me just explain that we married, this is third marriage for both of us. We married late in life, so we both had our own resources. So he's got his, I've got mine, and we've got ours. And he generously donated the money for the wine at my kickoff event. And I didn't have, the campaign didn't have to pay that back. Other than that, the rest of my contributions, most of my contributions are from District 3 citizens. Thank you.
That's a very smart spouse, by the way. I'm just making a point. The next question is this, and I'll read it and then I'll walk Tacey's way. She's getting hammered by the first question all the time here. The question is this, and did you support the gravity supply water line? How and why? Did you support the gravity supply water line? How and why?
I have to say that I do not have enough information and knowledge on this topic to actually say whether or not I support the gravity water line supply at this time. It's something I can look into. It's not on the forefront of things I have been looking into and getting ready for my campaign. Thank you.
Write it down, folks. Casey and I agree about something. If it's important to you, it's important to me. But as far as details, I'll have to read it in the paper. Thank you.
And Mike Spence. Mike, you're up.
Thank you. There's nothing more important to me than money, who's paying for what, how things are getting paid for. I did support the gravity supply line. I've always supported the Water Agency and Rich Harrington's efforts. I supported it on TSPNtv during interviews. I thought that saving $300,000 plus every year in PG&E costs to pump water uphill was a good idea. I think that fire safety and adding hydrants along the highway are a good idea, probably 4 to 5 hydrants. I think that the golf course here at Mays Meadow is going to benefit from the gravity supply line immensely to keep the ponds filled. I just think it's a good thing for our district, and when I do vote and I do think about things down in the county, that's how I'm going to think about things. It's not my personal opinion. I don't like to talk about myself, my background, but I like bringing people together to solve issues, and that was a contentious issue. It was a divisive issue in our county, and I'm just glad to see that the gravity supply line is being implemented and that it will serve our district.
Daniel, your turn.
I wasn't in a position to support it, but I certainly do support it. I think it's a no-brainer. And I would also like to consider, and maybe I'm unaware, but can we even put turbines in there and generate electricity at the same time? Yeah, and so those are the things that I would be thinking about. When it comes to water, we need to just get right on top of it and think about gray water systems, think about recycling water, using wastewater, all those things. We need to be the leaders and set a great model here in Amador County. And our water board is a wonderful group of people. And I look at my little town near me, 2 miles away, River Pines. That's a nightmare, and I would love the water board to come in and see, and you know, he's shaking his head here, but they're losing 40% of their water to leakage. You know, it's a terrible situation, and in a drought year, crazy. So anyway, yes, and let's see if we can even make it more effective.
Supervisor Ornetto.
Well, early on, when I first started hearing about the GSL, the way I found out about it was Ted Novelli bending my arm like as a rubber man. Ted was supporting it early on, and he was saying it was a good project, so I remember, it's something that came up, so I looked at it. The numbers they had, the numbers seemed good, what they'd save on the power charges, because right now they pump water from down at Tiger Creek all the way up, and it's real expensive, and I think we all know what electric rates are doing in California. And so after seeing the long-term financial benefits, it seemed like a no-brainer to me. We've also, another added benefit is there's fire hydrants along the way, and you have a gravity-fed water supply rather than a pumped water supply. And a biggie would come in there. If you have a fire come up that canyon and it takes out your pumping station, you're not going to have water for very long. And if you've ever seen a big fire, it destroys a lot of infrastructure, and you don't just drive right back in and fix stuff. It takes days to get in. So yes, I supported it. I still support it. I think it's a good project.
Supervisor Novelli.
Thank you, Sheriff Martin. I do support the gravity supply line. I always have. I was a president of a local water district up here, Ridgeway Pine Mutual Water District. Augie Millard, John Mims, many of you people here remember them. Augie's here in the room. We wanted that gravity supply line way back when, in the 80s, in the 90s. We asked for it. It was very cheap at the time. Well, we have it now, and we're blessed to have it, because any way to get rid of PG&E of pumping water up a hill, like one of the candidates said, it's a no-brainer. If you go up and down the mother lode throughout the whole state of California, you're going to see gravity flow water systems, not something that is pumped up, not something that has given PG&E more money. So yes, I do support the gravity supply line. Thank you.
Lynn?
Thank you. Excuse me. I like projects that are efficient, and I like green projects. So from that perspective, I personally like it. But I will say, when the whole subject came up, I was chair of the Upcountry Community Council, and it was very contentious. We could not get a unanimous position from Upcountry Community Council about the gravity supply line. So I neither support nor oppose. There were several times when I was on TSPN or on the radio, and I would just say, Upcountry Community Council doesn't have a position, and so that's where I am.
Next question. Again, these are Upcountry Council questions. For Tacey and Kim, you guys are going to learn a lot of new stuff tonight of what's important up here. So we'll give you that opportunity. And here's another one of those. What would you do to improve fire protection upcountry? What would you do to improve fire protection upcountry? Oh, I'm sorry.
I probably don't have that much to say about it, but no. We need to go in and use some of our resources to get the underbrush out of our forests so that when there are fires, they are not as dramatic and devastating fires as we've seen, like up in the Tahoe Basin. We need to be able to go in and take some of that excess brush out and clean up our forests a little more. And I think that will help the fires to not spread as bad as we have been seeing in recent years. Thank you.
One of my jobs in the Office of the Auditor Controller is I take care of the Measure M money, which is for the fire districts. And each year, the rates are set on percentages of the fire districts on how much money they're going to get. Well, I came up to the hills, well, not the hills to you guys, but Lockwood. And Lockwood, it just seems like they have very narrow roads. They have a lot of bushy trees, and that fighting a fire in that area would take a lot more equipment and a lot more man-hours to control something like that, but they get the least amount of money for the Measure M. I would like to see the Measure M people every year. I would like to see the people from up the hill go and work their way into those meetings and really convey the thought that the higher up you go, the harder it is to fight fires. And that Measure M money should maybe get distributed with that sort of factor written into it. That the flatlands down at Jackson, Jackson Valley, it would be a lot easier to fight a fire down there as opposed to up here where it's so wonderful looking green, but boy, when you get a fire up here, you're really going to see a fire. And I think that they, whatever the percentages, however they determine that, it really needs to get looked at for you folks who are living up here in the heart of it. Thank you.
Mike?
I'll try to resist not mentioning fireworks. Burn piles are a big issue. We have a gentleman who does burn pile enforcement Monday through Fridays. I don't know why he doesn't work on Saturdays, because that's when everybody's burning. We have the issues with our forest protection. I support the Amador Fire Safe Council and a lot of their efforts with the chipper program. A lot of the forestry management, I just sat down with Craig Ostergaard with SBI, and when you look at Shake Ridge Road in the beginning, it looked like a disaster, but after they finish it up, it looks good. Out in Sherwood Forest, the Amador Fire Safe Council just did an excellent job. That was grant funding. A lot of money needs to come from the state. In our last debate, candidate Morgan mentioned that she'd like to see the 30 and 100-foot rule enforced up here by the county. That's not a county regulation, it's a state regulation. What we don't want is a bunch of stormtroopers coming up telling us what to do. We need the state to enforce that through CAL FIRE. And if you see something, report it. But it's not something that I would implement in terms of new programs or telling anybody how to better do their jobs. We need to make sure that we get into those fires. McClintock was very instrumental in getting the lumber out of the rim fire. The state always slows that process down. If there were ever a situation where there was a fire, I'd make sure that we got all that brush and all that timber out of there. I do support lumbering up country. You hate to see clear cut, but it's their land, and we need that industry. It's a commercial viability that we need as an economy up country. It's a big part of our history, and I support that as well as our agricultural history with water. And I will say that with fire, you know, we are in a serious area. It goes without saying. We have fire districts up in the periphery. I hated to see the one at the very, very top at Dewdrop closed. I'd like to see all of our fire stations stay open. I question why we need 11 fire chiefs, but we can do some consolidation in the Amador Fire Protection District, and I support consolidation into the Amador Fire Protection District.
Daniel.
I think Kim's comment about Measure M is really appropriate and should be looked at. Defensible space, educating all our residents, knowing your neighbors, being able to talk to your neighbors when you see things, good communication back and forth. The Fire Safe Council is a wonderful organization, and I would love to see it given even more recognition in what they're doing. There's a lot of water tanks out, but I don't know if the fire departments know where all those tanks are, and that might be some kind of coordination system we can get in the case of a fire. I've talked to people out on Quartz Mountain Road where there was a fire raging, and these people had a lot of water, and the fire trucks were racing off in all different directions to find water, and they flagged them down and said, hey, we got a tank and we got a little pond over here. So we need to address that one and get better at that type of thing. Okay, I wrote another note here. We all know what these are. Well, I'll just stop. Good forest management is also incredible. You know, and when I drive up on the old Omer Ranch Road, that's really nice and clean. It's almost like a park in there. And boy, the Kit Kadizzy smelled real good coming up tonight, by the way. Okay, I'm going to pass. Thanks.
Hey, Denny. Brian?
You know, I'll start off saying many years ago, long before as a supervisor, I used to go in the Forest Service and I'd tell them, hey, you need to thin out these forests. You need to thin them, make them more fire safe, because we ran cattle up there. I did logging up there. I spent probably, when I was younger, a good half of my childhood and even my adult years working in the forest. And what I've seen what's happening up there is basically criminal. I don't blame a lot of the Forest Service people. I think they're trying to do their best. I blame policies coming out of Washington, D.C. They're trying to save everything. And I go and I've worked in fires. You see 20,000 acres burnt flat. It's disgusting, and that's a real threat to our communities. So I've advocated, and I'm still advocating, thin out our forests, and if they do it right, it'll pay its own way. I went to SFAC meetings. I've been to a number of Sustainable Forest Action Coalition meetings, and I've outlived, as far as tenure, Lundgren and Herger, they both either left or retired or whatever, and now Lamoffa's there, McClintock's there, Feinstein sends a rep. And we're advocating, hey, the Forest Service, the Region 5 supervisor comes, Randy Moore, we're saying, look, you need to do this. It's real important. Because we got the McClellan River Canyon there, we had the Power Fire. I want to say most of it burnt in about a day and a half, and it burnt like 17,000 acres. Also, as far as a supervisor, I voted to support Amador Fire Safe Council in doing their community wildfire protection plans, which are a good thing through Title III funds. And I think it's very important. My father-in-law, I used to tell him, Norm, you need to thin out the trees. And I tell people I talk to, you need to thin out around your house. It's important. Defensible space. You still have a nice forest. Open it up, and you can probably take a fire, and you may save your house and your neighbors too. So that's my answer.
Ted?
Thank you, Sheriff. First of all, I support it. My name are on the ballots for Measure L and Measure M. Measure L was the first fire initiative for paid firefighters in our county. That failed in 2006, November. In 2008, I was out there knocking on doors, trying to educate people to get Measure M. My names are on the brochures that were handed out to get Measure M. Measure M is passed. We have 7 fire chiefs in Amador County. We have 5 city fire chiefs. We do not have any control over the city fire chiefs. I do represent RAC. RAC is Resource Advisory Committee. I'm the supervisor on that committee, which in turn hands over funds for rural schools, and some of those funds go to Fire Safe Council, and thank Kathy Cruz Brazil for all the work she does on the Fire Safe Council. It is important that we don't go out and prune our trees. We should do like they're asking us to and clear some of our trees. I'm not saying clear cut, but as you can look out here, you can't see daylight through these trees here. We need to clear some of the trees. Not clear cut, but clear some of the trees. No pruning. Go out there and do some real trimming. Thank you.
And Lynn.
Thank you. Excuse me. I'm strongly supportive of the Fire Safe Council, and our road association is actually working with the council for a very important program that they help with called Becoming a Fire-Wise Community. And I'd have to ask you to ask Kathy for the details of it, but we're going through the process. And the wonderful thing about this process is that it has the potential of lowering homeowner fees. Because if you can show that this community is actually working hard to prevent fires, some insurance companies are really looking at that. So that's really positive. Obviously, I'd like to see more brush clearing. That's a very dangerous thing in our community especially.
Hi, you guys. We have one correction that came from the audience to make clear the statement that the Upcountry Council did not support the GSL. It was at that time they did not. We later took a vote and it was unanimously supported. There was no vote against it. So just a clarification.
Thank you. We're going to switch the order up just a little bit to make it a little easier and a little quicker as we go through these questions. So what we're going to do is we're going to start with Lynn this time and just work straight down the line. And we'll do that for a while, and then we'll probably bring it back the other way at some point. So, given that, and I'll read it, give you a little moment, Lynn, to think about it as we go through the process. This is the question. What would you do to stimulate existing upcountry businesses and also to attract new business upcountry? Again, what would you do to stimulate existing upcountry businesses and also to attract new businesses upcountry?
This is kind of funny looking. I am someone that builds coalitions. I have done that my entire life very successfully. And what I would do, I've already spoken to a number of businesses up here, such as Pearls, the Amador Cafe, a couple of stores in Volcano. And I think to stimulate the economy up here and to make sure we don't drive down Highway 88 and keep seeing little cafes going out of business all the time, that I would put together a coalition of business owners, of citizens from upcountry, to be sure we know what we want and need up here, and with county staff, frankly, the people that issue the licenses, the people that do the inspections, the people that sometimes are accused of hurting the process of businesses being established up here. With that coalition, we can build an economic development plan, we can bring jobs here, and we can make sure our economy is thriving. Thank you.
I think we, the County Board of Supervisors of Amador County, are doing exactly what this card says: stimulate upcountry business. Any business person could come to the county to either get or look at a fee waiver in regards to any of the fees or business things regarding to fees. We also, in regards to like in lower country where we have possible rails, we have asked large corporations, come look at our area. We will help provide you maybe no cost, maybe no rent, maybe no nothing if you come and look at our area. The Board of Supervisors has the power to limit fees, to do a payment structure on fees. We do have many businesses that are open right now. We have the hotels back open. We have the coffee shops open. We have Pearls open. We have the place right here at Dan White's office, Serenities, I believe it's called, is open. So we have many businesses that are open. The idea is in the upcountry area is to keep them open. If we have a bad winter for 4 or 5 months, that's very detrimental on business. And we will work, the Board of Supervisors will work with businesses in the County of Amador. Thank you.
That's a great question. Business vibrancy is extremely important up here. We all suffer from the same challenge, visibility, and getting our businesses up front within the realm of the entire county, making sure everybody who has a business up here is identifiable in what they do and why should we support that local business. I would do the same thing that I've been doing at TSPN for over a year and a half, promoting small businesses throughout the county. I just developed a website called upcountryinfo.com. You take my picture off of it and all this political nonsense. It's designed for all the businesses up country to advertise for free. I'd like to see every service throughout the entire district identified on that website. Communication, that's what it's all about up here, and that's what we don't do enough of. I agree that a lot of the businesses, I'd like to see that lodge stay open. It's not really been sold, it's just open for the broker to sell it, so we'll see what happens with that. But I'd like to also see the Small Business Association have its meetings up here and help people like at Pearls and the small coffee shops get a small business loan. If they had more of their seminars and business meetings up here, I've talked to them at Delta College. They're very interested in coming up here. I'd like to see a lot more of that activity so that people know where they can get the money to open up a small business and also know what our needs are. And our needs are identified through communications. Not only the needs for small businesses, which we have a lot of, but just because they're open doesn't mean that they're thriving. We need to help them, and we need to have a local program where we see it in signage, we see it in everybody's thinking, and in everybody's conversations.
I agree with Supervisor Navelli. I think the supervisors can be creative and offer breaks and incentives to businesses. I think that's a great thing to do, to reach out. A strategic plan, as Lynn mentioned, I think is also really vital, that the businesses, we don't duplicate, and it's good to have diversity, and so let's get businesses and not have yet another tire shop in our county. Let's be practical. Let's take advantage of the farm to fork movement that's growing in Sacramento. We're a little high up here, but why did the tomato factory disappear with all those glass houses? Pardon? Oh, I'm sorry. I did not know. Well, that seemed like a wonderful business down the road. Anyway, reach together and try to attract and give breaks and give incentives, communication. That's what we got to do, for our little county.
Well, first off, government can help businesses at times, but businesses are businesses and they're run by private businesses. It's not our purview to make winners and losers. With that said, I know as a board we have lobbied very hard to keep our forest open to recreation. and also to make sure it's thin for fire danger, but our forests are being closed off, the use is being restricted, and those people, they come, they recreate, they go to dinner, they buy gas, they go to restaurants, they bring in lodging, and there's a lot of that's been being shut down very slowly, but it's been happening long term. I've watched it since I was a teenager. Our forests are being restricted. I'm not happy about it, and I've lobbied to keep them open. Also, I did lobby ever since I've been in office, I've lobbied our federal people, our state people on the ADA issues. I understand the ADA requirements. There's a need for some, but they're way too restrictive, and they have hurt a lot of our small businesses and put a lot of them out of business. And I know Congressman Lundgren got something passed that give the small businesses a chance before they got basically attacked and for financial gain by people. So that's a real issue. Also, I supported the new fiber optic cable, which will bring a lot higher speed internet to this county, and I think that's going to be critical in the future. A lot of people are going to want to be able to work from home, and you got to have high speed internet to do that. And a lot of businesses, they want high speed internet access. And I was talking to Volcano Telephone about it, and they said you take a big business that may be paying like, I want to say $1,600 to $2,000 a month internet service. With the new fiber optic cable that's come in, big businesses like that be paying like me $100 to $200 a month. So if I was a big business going somewhere, I'd say, okay, I can pay $1,600 to $2,000 or $100 to $200 a month. I know where I'd be going. I'd be going with the cheaper cost. So, and also we've worked to have staff be more business friendly.
I didn't forget the auditors at the other end. That question we gave them a pass on, but they're not going to get a pass on this one. So this is the next question coming up. It's kind of up their wheelhouse. This is the question for all of the candidates. In order to maintain county budgets, would you recommend layoffs, furloughs, or increased taxes? In order to maintain county budgets, would you recommend layoffs, furloughs, or increased taxes?
None of the above. But seriously, there are other options. There are options of cutting programs, looking at programs that perhaps are not viable, that shouldn't be funded anymore, or looking at something like the HHS building on Ridge Road that the county is paying $1 million a year on rent for. There are ways to cut budgets. I would hope everybody, I expect this entire board, does not want to do layoffs. I was involved myself in furloughs at the state, and that's kind of a funny dilemma, because what we found is that when people were forced to take a 5% pay cut and take every Friday off, when that got reversed, people said, wait a minute, we could stand the 5%, we really liked having a 3-day weekend. So I'm much more for furloughs than layoffs. But also I think that the county, the board, should set priorities on their spending and should look for ways to cut supportive of those priorities.
Thank you. Measure L and Measure M were two things. They were sales taxes for a good cause for paid firefighters. Another measure was Measure K. Now everybody here reads the paper and says, oh, look at our roads, look at our roads. Well, the people of Amador County shot down more money to go to our roads, and that was Measure K in November of '06, where we were trying to get a half to a quarter-cent sales tax to go strictly to our roads. The people of Amador County voted against that. Unfortunately, those things happen. But we, the board, we wanted that. We might want to do that again. That's another way of getting money. Now, I realize people say, well, it's a tax. It's a sales tax. It's not really a tax. It's only on certain things that you buy at a store, okay? So, in regards to that, I might want to look at that, okay? In regards to furloughs, if a department has 10 people in it, and the boss says, we could run the department with doing 32-hour work weeks or doing 36-hour work weeks, and the employees in that department want to do it, I'm all for that. If they want to cut and work 36 hours or 32 hours and the department still run and still be open for county business, I'm for that. If this will help This is a good thing. We, the board, right now, we're looking at early retirements in regards to medical, or early retirements in regards to years of service, where we offer people a severance to leave with so many years. Thank you.
That's exactly what we did last week. We offered 4.5 early retirements. We had a 15% employee gap. I've been looking at this budget since November. It's far from being balanced. We say that in government terms, but we still have about a $380,000 deficit. Where you go with that is setting priorities. And early retirements, Chuck Eiley, our county administrator, is doing a great job. He talked 4.5 people. I don't know how the half works, but 4.5 people into early retirement this past week. But the problem is we lost 2 department heads in doing that. We have 7 positions that still haven't been backfilled. We still have to pay to fill those positions. So it's a spiral. The state budget costs in terms of our CalPERS with California pensions and retirements are going up $250,000 a year. We're never going to get to a balanced budget point. It's like Jerry Brown saying he's balanced the budget, but he has a mountain of liabilities, $350 billion worth for the state of California. We have liabilities too. We have to pay into our pensions and retirements. So where we make the cuts is we have to reduce spending. The gap between revenue and expenditures is closing, and Chuck Eiley's doing a terrific job. But just this past week we hired a full-time coyote trapper for out in Plymouth and Ione. We have a position that we're looking for a new building inspector that was just approved. So it's those expenditures and that spending we have to really be careful of in terms of what items are on our priority list and where we spend the money and where we don't.
Of those 3 layoffs, furloughs, or increased taxes, again, furloughs would be, I guess, the option that I would look at over layoffs. And that would be one that I think would be important to do in consultation with the people whose positions we're talking about. Also, a sales tax might have to happen if we can't get any money, any federal grants or any other monies, which we should be searching for, every possible bit of money that's out there and not turning our noses up for it. But our roads have no money right now. There's nothing budgeted for any improvement except for fixing culverts at this point and clearing brush. And so that is an issue that we as a county need to address and talk about to each other. That was my time. So, another minute. That's all I got to say.
You know, this question is not new to me or the Board of Supervisors. We've had to address it before. We've done layoffs before. It's not a fun thing to do. We've been working real hard trying to get our expenses to meet our income. And it seems like about the time that you get top of that hill, you find out that CalPERS wants $250,000 next year, and $500,000 next year, and $750,000 the next year. That's a hard hill to climb. I will say, as far as the HHS building, Ted and I, we got elected in 2006. We were seated in 2007. The contract was inked 2006, so I wouldn't lay that at Ted's doorstep. I think there were some staff had given some bad numbers to some of the supervisors early on, and they made a lot of assurances, and then when this downturn came, source of funding that were put forth evaporated and caused a real issue there. That's a real problem. It's something we're stuck with. I don't think anybody in the board's happy about it. Early retirement program is something we've been doing, and that's trying to basically get people to retire, bring in cheaper salaries, maybe consolidate positions. As far as layoffs or furloughs, I think I prefer maybe like a 36-hour work week, possibly something along that line. I'm not really looking at layoffs unless we have a position that's not necessary. Along that line, maybe something could be they can be rolled into another job and consolidate it and try to cut our costs. But I'm not in favor of increase in taxes. I'm not. We did do the fire tax. I think that was something with a sales tax. But as far as just doing taxes to meet our bills, that's an unending solution, and you never get there. Government would rise to the occasion, maybe not in Amador County, but most government would rise to the occasion to spend the extra dollars.
I sat on the bargaining team that first promoted the furlough program for Amador County. And like Lynn said, people just fought us tooth and nail, thinking that the furlough was going to take money out of their mouths. You know, the office wasn't going to run good. Well, then we got into the furloughs, and then when they told us that we had to go back to the 40 hours a week, we almost had riots. Because people found out that they liked the little extra time off, and that they could scrimp a little in order to do that. I think I've always been, when I sat on the bargaining team, I was always well, you know, guys, we sort of have to look at this way, that, you know, money only goes so far, you know, and we have to pay for these services. So I was sort of the person who kind of argued with the group, because with the union members, they tend to think the county's taking this all away from us, and we need this. Well, we needed to work with the county. We did the furloughs. It worked out fine. But I believe that there's probably, each department needs to get it looked at. Just because there was a warm body there for 20 years does not mean that perhaps consolidation of some departments, some job sharing for departments. Public Works is closed during lunch hours just so that everybody can have their lunch hour, and so I think that each department needs to get looked at. Consolidation, cutting some fat off the top. We need employees to be working, not sitting on their laurels. Thank you.
As auditor, I would work with the Board of Supervisors and the County Administrative Officer to look at a trend analysis for about 3 to 5 years, look at a detailed trend analysis of the costs for the overall overhead costs throughout the county, to identify what has been happening with those costs, to see if there can be some cuts made in those areas. And also, I would also like to look at the county departments' budgets and see if there are things that we can still cut out of those operating costs to run things more efficiently. And after that, I do not like the idea of layoffs. I think that should be one of the last resorts. So at that point, if we still needed to save costs, which is probably likely, then I would consider furloughs to be an important idea on the table. Thank you.
Okay, the next question is going to be for the supervisorial candidates. The question is, do you support the Pine Grove Highway 88 Safety and Improvement Project?
Yeah, 50 seconds.
Oh, Sherry's slamming the hammer down now to get 50 seconds. Do you support the Pine Grove Highway 88 Safety and Improvement Project? Yes or no?
Absolutely, yes. That project was put together by many, many citizens in this community, and they went through a tough time finding the cheapest, best alternative. Yes.
Absolutely, yes. As chairman of ACTC, Amador County Transportation Commission, I support the Pine Grove project.
Yes, I have supported the project. I'm hoping that it will be done in phases because it's a lot of money. We don't know what our future county needs are going to be with road repairs in other areas of our county. The Pine Grove area has worked on that for a long time, and they had a community effort that was just outstanding. And it's one of the most amazing groups of people that I've seen.
And I think when you have that much public input, yes.
Well, I always call them like I see them, and I'm not against a project of sorts in Pine Grove. I think $38 to $40 million and also going out and committing our STIP money for till about 2028 is too much, and I think it's we're spending too many dollars in one place, so I'm opposed to it as it's put forth.
This is from the audience for the District 3 and District 5 candidates. Your position on the dollar store coming into Pioneer, are you for or against a big box store?
Thank you. Well, dollar store is not considered a big box store, not to just confuse the issue, but again, I'm back to the fact that even though we kept Family Dollar Store from coming in here, there is a need for economic development and jobs up here. And what I would like to see, I'm not particularly in favor of large stores coming up here, large stores that are not locally owned, but I think it should be up to the coalition of citizens, other business owners, county supervisors, and county staff to decide what in our general plan we are going to include in our town centers, whether we want those kinds of stores or not. It's not up to me. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to say that if, according to the general plan, if according to the town center, and if all the needs are met, A through Z is done correctly, I don't see how I, as a county supervisor, could stop a business from coming in. This is not socialism here. I fought for communism. I fought against communism. I don't want to dictate to businesses who could come in and who shouldn't come in. If they meet the criteria, if they do A through Z, they pay all their fees, and everything is looked at, wastewater, water, fire, everything, all the department heads, Caltrans, road departments, they're all looked at this, and they say, they give a green light. I, as a county supervisor, do not want to stop any business from coming into the Pioneer Buckhorn area.
Well, we have our answer. It's not that I oppose the dollar store, which I do, adamantly. It's that the results of the General Plan Action Committee that Lynn mentioned earlier, they put together a 10-year plan for our town center, if you want to call it that, in Buckhorn. And they said that they wanted mixed-use development rather than big box anchored shopping centers. They didn't want that type of store in Buckhorn. I'm fine with putting it down in Pine Grove, but I don't think we need two of them side by side. And the argument of free enterprise is a county argument. You can't put a toxic business next to Pioneer School. You can't put a shooting range out there on French Bar Road if it's near people's homes. We can't put that dollar store next to Cooper's Vineyard out in Shenandoah Valley. Everything has a limit in terms of a look and feel, and we have the right to determine the look and feel of our neighborhood. I would put a referendum on the ballot. I would take a legislative action once the plan is filed. I'll go in front of the Board of Supervisors, and I'll ask that it goes to the vote so that the people can decide.
I think strategic plans are important, and the will of the community is important. I tend to agree with Senator, my goodness. Those supervisors in the valley, that we can't dictate just anything, but we need to educate and communicate and get our feelings out there so that it doesn't get to a head. We need to encourage businesses. I am not a fan of big box stores, that money does not stay in our county. It ends up going to Georgia or somewhere else, and a lot of minimum wage jobs are not necessarily what we need. I think we just need to really start trying to stimulate local businesses and attract more of that in our area, and that's enough for me.
You know, I think Supervisor Novelli pretty well said it. The zoning and general plan and the rules dictate who has the ability to come. With that said, I do not like big box stores, but you know where the people in Calaveras County shop? They all come to Amador County and shop, or else they go to Tuolumne and shop, because they don't have any big box stores in Calaveras County. I wish they never invented the big box stores, but they are here, they're a fact of life, and in the end, people will dictate what businesses are successful by where they shop, and that's what it comes down to.
Well, it's Kim with the attitude of looking at things and facing the realities that stores are going to they put a lot of time and effort into studies to see if an area could even sustain something like they wanted to do. And I think that a lot of the smaller businesses, they think, you know, I make the best waffles in town, and I know everybody's going to come to my place and eat waffles. Well, after a while, people might get a little tired of waffles. And I think that's why some businesses just kind of don't prosper, is because they haven't put the study into exactly what the area needs. You guys may not want big box something, you may not want small or medium box, but if they decide that this would be a good fit, they're going to come here. And you could get some employment off of it, you could get some convenience off of it, because it seems like you folks from up the hill, there's no mass transit. How are you going to get to the stores down in the Jackson area? You guys need something up here. If IGA decided that it wasn't feasible for them to be in business, they would go away. So you need to welcome business, because they'll decide if they should come. And there's nothing that the board can really do about it. The general plan, getting the general plan into place may help things, but that needs to be done in order for the general plan to trump anything. Thank you.
I do think that is very important to know and get a feel about how the residents of Amador County, and in particular districts, feel about having big box businesses come into their areas and our county as a whole. And I do very much support small local family businesses, and I try to shop local as much as possible and not shop at the big box stores myself. I try not to shop there as much as I can because I think it's important to help our small businesses here and support the businesses that we have. It might cost a little bit more, but by the time you calculate how much money you're spending in gas to go over to the Folsom or down to Sacramento, maybe it's really not that much more expensive to shop local. So it's important to get a feel for what our community, you know, wants and needs. And at the same time, I don't think that it's right that the government can mandate whether or not someone wants to sell their business or retire, and make that contingent on the type of business that's going to come in. So I think that's a very important aspect to consider as well. Thank you.
the moment you've all been waiting for, the last question. Okay? Before I pass this question along, I'd like to compliment you all for being here, number one, and for number two, conducting yourselves the way you have. You've really represented the upcountry with a lot of class and dignity, the way you've gone about being an audience and being participants. So thank you all for doing that. Now the last question is for the Board of Supervisors candidates, and it's one that's near and dear to my heart. And the question is this: what are your concerns for emergency services?
Well, obviously, up in District 3, our concerns are getting good response time. And especially I think I had a meeting with Sheriff Martin, and there are different levels, as you might guess, of emergencies and calls. And type 1 are obviously the most life-threatening ones. So my concern is that you have enough staff, frankly, to respond quickly and effectively to level 1 calls. I also think we should use our our neighborhood watch programs to look out for ourselves and our neighbors, so that when we see something that looks funny, even if we're not sure it really is a crime being committed, let's call the sheriff. So those are my thoughts.
First of all, I'd like to say I'm very concerned for any and all first responders, sheriff, law enforcement, fire, et cetera, et cetera. I recently opened up our new ambulance station here in Pioneer, right off the highway, because up on Buckhorn Ridge Road, as we all know, when it gets snow and you have power lines come down, you can't get the ambulance in and out. So we moved it down here. I was instrumental on that. I sit on the ambulance board. I also sit on the state fire board. So I know a little things about fire and what we need up here. I was very instrumental in Measure LNM, first time paid firefighters in the county for Amador County, which was a big thing. I know that the sheriff is doing the best job he can. I want to commend him. We are very lucky to have a sheriff of this magnitude, and I thank him very much. With that said, we support, our Board of Supervisors support law enforcement, support fire, support first responders, support American Legion Ambulance. Thank you.
I would also commend Sheriff Ryan. He's not only a great sheriff, but it means a lot more to just be a sheriff in Amador County. You have to be a great CEO, and he has a corporation to run. And we have emergency services like earthquake and different types of programs that they've been implementing and communicating with our community and coming to the Upcountry Rotary and doing special things and really taking the time to educate people. And I would also add to Lynn's contact information about Neighborhood Watch and Crime Watch. There's also Vacation Watch, and I'd love to encourage everybody right now to make sure if they do go on vacation, they use that, because the deputies really don't have that many homes on Vacation Watch, and they do look at them very closely. The response times are determined by where the deputy is at that time that the call comes in. It's very difficult to just target response times and expect that to change. If the deputy is on the other side of the county, we don't have more than 1 or 2 deputies working at a time. So when that response does come in, it just all depends on where that deputy is at that time, and we have excellent deputies, and I want to commend them as well.
As a supervisor, I would definitely support our sheriffs and our fire departments in every way I can. If you haven't read the book Shadow People, I recommend you read that one. That'll open your eyes to a lot of things that go on in our county and our neighboring counties that most people may not even be aware of, the things that these guys put their self on the line for. Keeping our fire stations in good condition is another thing. And also at snow removal time. I don't know how practical it is, but I've talked to a lot of people up on Shake Ridge Road, and the road does get plowed, but they get these berms in front of their houses, and then they're kind of trapped in there. And that's something that I would really feel that we need to get the driveways open as well, because you're in a bad situation if you're a 91-year-old person or an 89-year-old person, like a lot of the people that I've been talking to, and they can't deal with it. And so there's all sorts of situations that we need to put on the table and always put in front of us. And again, a shout out to the Fire Safe Council. There's at Volcano on the 20th, am I right, Kathy? 24th. It's going to be a big workshop down there for people. And so we just need to all work together, be good neighbors, the neighborhood watch, and also the vacation home watch, and put that on a list is so critical. We're just a small community. We're smaller than most cities in America, and that's our county. And so that's how I was born and raised. You get to know your neighbors, and you all look out for each other. Thanks.
You know, emergency services are essential services. And as a board, we've tried to make sure that our first responders have adequate dollars. I know the sheriff has been very good to work with. He stretched his dollars. Sometimes he may not always be happy about this or that, because, I mean, I'm sure he'd like to have even more deputies to provide a higher level of service, but he's made it function very well. I supported Major M, and I believe I supported Major L too, which was trying to get boots in the ground, get our fire station staffed. One of the tricks in preventing a big fire is stopping it as a small fire. When you get those real raging infernos, kind of like the one over there, they had the rim fire, it burnt, what, 250,000 acres. When they get going like that, that fire is going to go where it's going to go, and just get out of its way. I think also something else, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I've worked very hard trying to get the Forest Service to reduce the fuel loading in the forest, because the forest directly affect this county, and I think that's very important. Get the Forest Service motivated, thin out those forests, help keep our communities safe. But I have supported our first responders, and they do an excellent job, and I thank them.
Do you have? Can I have?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Sure. Well, you were writing. We, in the admin building, we had a fire drill a couple months back, and we sailed right through it. It was wonderful. You know, they came out, they said everything was clear, and it was a great little drill, and we got a great write-up. Well, come to find out, less than 2 weeks ago, we had a little guy come into the building, and he thought he was hitting the automatic door, and he did the fire alarm instead. Well, in the event of a fire, when everything is going well, our doors are supposed to go down. We're supposed to exit the building, and then at the end, we account for all of our people, and then at the end, we get this all clear. Well, because we were having the doors, the maintenance people working on the doors didn't go down. So everybody went outside, and then we found out that the person with the air horn that was supposed to excuse us, well, they weren't there that day. So we were kind of, you know, in a quandary. Should we go in because all the lights are still flashing? So mostly it takes the education. And just one person shouldn't know where the blowhorn is in order to call everybody back into the building. I don't even think that we got the fire department that was supposed to respond to us, they didn't even call. And so then we sort of failed miserably on our on our fire department, and the doors wouldn't go down, and the people didn't know exactly what to do because the leader wasn't there. It takes education for everyone, not just the one person with the vest on or the air horn. It takes everybody to work together to do it. Thank you.
Emergency safety in our county is a huge priority. We need to listen to the concerns and ideas of our sheriff. And we need to provide in our budgets the funds that are required and necessary to keep up all of our equipment and education for the personnel that is out there to help the residents of Amador County. They need to have everything that they can to do their jobs the best, to get there the quickest, to make sure the equipment is in good order. And of course, this wouldn't just be at Sheriff Martin's request, but it would be good for their department, but it would be good for all citizens of Amador County. So thank you.
I think Sherry's got just a little housekeeping thing, but before we go there, I don't know about the rest of you, but I've been up here doing this before. This is not easy to do, to put yourself out front like these folks have, to expose yourselves and your families to criticism that wouldn't normally come your way by people who take opposing views. None of us started our lives to do politics. I tell people it's an unfortunate consequence sometimes of what we do, that's part of it. But it does get us out and gets us into the communities and gets us to talk with you folks. And it helps us drive and direct our actions of which way we go in listening to you. It's kind of like a business, government is. And we produce products, and you're the consumers of those products. So we need to make sure that we listen to you and your needs, and that we're providing you the services and the response and the products that you need. And I just want to compliment the candidates for stepping up, for taking the chance, for putting themselves out like this. This is just an outstanding thing, and it's great for Amador County. So thank you all.